Hey everybody, it's Monday and I am here with you all live. I just want to remind you that this live video will be dropped on my podcast on Wednesday morning, including links to the slides and the writing prompts that we're going to go over today. So I hope you had the opportunity to spend some time looking at the life hacks that I offered on When Life Gets Hard, specifically about autonomy. That is the number one because it's the most important. And having the autonomy to know that we are the boss of our lives, that we can take action in ways that can help ourselves. And one of the ways to really engage autonomy is using a mantra or a prayer statement or just like your life motto. Whatever you feel comfortable with for that language, because everybody sees things differently. For me, my latest mantra has been I will take care of myself. So when life gets hard, when challenges arise, I tell myself I will take care of myself. It's a way that I can show up for myself and all the parts of me, all the different versions of me. You know, the scared little girl, the vulnerable teenager who was not taught how to feel her emotions, and the 30-year-old who thought she had her act together and had life figured out before everything fell apart. Okay. So mantras are really powerful. A life motto is really powerful. Words matter and have power. So if you think about situations where you felt like your power was taken from you, that's what I want to talk about today. Specifically, what we feel when we are left behind or left alone. Recalling situations, memories where we felt that feeling of being left behind or left alone. And it's going to bring up very specific emotions for all of us, but those emotions can vary from anger to sorrow to shame to nonchalance, like I don't ever recall feeling that way. And that's a possibility as well. But I think the majority of us have had the experience of feeling that being left behind or left alone is a very specific emotional pain that is born of a disconnection. Because humans were designed to be in relationship, we were designed to be in a village, we were designed to be in community. However, what's ironic is we can push back from community and connection because it feels too vulnerable. Because of experiences where we were wounded or hurt in ways where we wanted connection and then either were not given what we needed or we were made to feel like we were too much or that we were not valued. In other words, the other people in our lives didn't have time for us. They forgot about us. We were invisible. Words like that. So I want you to think about that as we go through this today. I hope you've had a good couple of weeks. There's a lot going on in our world, and I am still very much praying for Ukraine and what is going on in Europe with regard to human life and human communities being fractured and broken. So know that. Okay, let's jump into what we're going to talk about today. So when you feel left alone or left behind, okay? So you need to be aware which emotional trigger is driving. So that's really, really, really important. So you need to know that there is, you know, there's always something beneath the waterline. There's always that red target. There's always a source of what's driving our emotionally charged situation on the top of the iceberg. In other words, what you see and what you don't see. But learning to be aware of which emotional trigger is driving is so important with regard to navigating hard emotions and also being aware that our hard emotions and what we're feeling absolutely impacts everyone around us. So I walk through the iceberg because it is so critical to discovering what lies beneath the waterline is really your life hack to understanding why you respond the way you do in certain situations. But the reality is what's beneath the waterline is dark, it's murky, it's a little scary, and there's going to be a lot of emotions that come with it. However, the more you go beneath that waterline, the more you realize it is dark and murky, but you can begin to get clarity the further you go down in the water. And also, you're going to begin to see experiences and situations that maybe you haven't been able to let go of, or maybe you weren't even conscious though that it was still there. So sometimes we assume that our emotional pain from the past is going to be left at the door when we leave it. That's not true. Our baggage comes with us until we unpack it. So here are some words that I think are helpful to just see so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. So the top of the iceberg, again, these are things that we all see, that anyone can see at any given time. What's beneath that black line are things that people don't always see. And it's hard to have empathy and compassion for people when we don't see what's actually going on with them, right? So that's where empathy reminds us, because we're aware of what's on our iceberg, we can kind of be patient and compassionate with those who may be struggling with something that we don't fully understand, and their behavior on the outside looks a lot different than what we would expect, because maybe there's something underneath that's driving that. So, writing prompts. These are the writing prompts where we're going to really write out and reflect. And this is important to really reflect on these things. And I didn't want to spend a lot of time today giving you a lot of content, because I really want to focus in on, hey, what are the feelings that come up when you feel left alone or left behind? And you write out these words, or you take a screenshot of it. A recent situation when I felt left alone or left behind was, and you fill out the first thing that comes up. Trust what comes up. Trust that you already know. So a situation for me is a recent situation when I felt left alone or left behind was when I was at probably 13, and my parents did not tell me that they had gone away on like a long day trip. And I expected them to be home, like normally dinner time. And they weren't. And all of my siblings were gone because I'm the youngest of four. And so they were older and, of course, doing their thing. And I was alone. And I remember feeling so afraid. And then my mother came home and wanted to know why I had been crying. Well, like my eyes were red because I had been crying. And then she made the assumption that I was using drugs, or I had taken drugs because my eyes were red. And so she was angry at me. So then I had on top of that this shame factor that I'm not supposed to be sad or cry, because I didn't want to tell her that I was just afraid that I had been alone. And so it's a really big memory that has stayed with me forever. In this situation, I felt. So in your case, you would write, in this situation, I felt. And I felt in that situation a lot of fear, abandonment, that I had been forgotten about. And I was scared to be alone. The feelings reminded me of not wanting to be away from my mother for very long when I was very, very small. And I was also very afraid of being like kidnapped. It was a big thing when I was a kid. Amber alerts and all those things came out when, it was just a big thing. And I had a lot of fear around being kidnapped and being taken and my parents not knowing where I was. And so that was really scary for me. Recalling that, I think I needed presence. I think I needed someone to be with me, right? I think I needed someone to say, it's okay to feel scared and we'll walk through this. And these are the plans that if you feel scared, this is what you can do. And if you need something, here's a phone number to call. And instead I was making up all these stories of myself because I felt like I couldn't talk to my parents about it. So this is really important for you to think about this one as you're working through yours, that as you're recalling it, to really kind of hone in on, I think I needed this, because the next writing prompt is, but I didn't get it. So I needed someone to be present with me. I needed someone to say, hey, Heather, when you feel scared, here are some things that you can try on to work through that. I didn't get it. So I just acted like I had my act together. And I didn't. And I carried that into adulthood. So I always looked strong and capable, competent. But on the inside, I was just terrified all the time that I was going to fail. And then when I did fail, I would just fall apart. So I didn't get it. So I overcompensated by acting like I had my act together. It makes sense that I did that because that's all I knew. I was doing my best. I was surviving. The story that I tell myself about being left alone or left behind is that I'm not worthy of being stayed with, that eventually people will leave. And that pattern has showed up many times for me in different ways, and it may show up for you as well. So there may be multiple stories or narratives that come up for you. For me, I have stories of my mother, and then also stories of romantic relationships, so there's a lot with these words of being left alone and left behind. But the story that I tell myself about it, this idea of feeling left alone or left behind, is that I'm not worthy to be with, right? Which is not true. Because the truth is that I am. I can be there for myself. The truth is I have value, I matter, and that I can show up for myself. And it's really important to understand that truth. Knowing this, I can try to reframe this story by reminding myself that I can show up for myself, that I will take care of myself, that people make mistakes, that oftentimes people are dealing with other things that I'm not aware of, but that sense of being left alone and left behind, I was always there for me. Like, it's not anybody else's job to be 100% there for me. Although relationships are critical and we are designed to be in community and in relationship, the most important thing I can do for myself is to remind myself that I am here for myself. If I do this, I may be more able to be present to the other people in my life. So the more I am able to show up for myself, the more energy I have to show up for others, because I'm not wasting time trying to figure out how to not have people leave me, because that's just not reality. People leave. People pass away. Relationships change. That's just life, right? In this work, I'm learning that some of the stories I tell myself are not true and are based from a place of old wounds underneath the waterline, that iceberg, that I am not conscious of or aware of. And the more aware I become of them, the more I am able to help myself heal as I navigate through them. One way I will show up for myself now is to feel what I feel, express my feelings, and ask for what I need. Okay, so that's pretty much it today, guys. I know it's pretty short, but I wanted to keep it succinct because a lot of this is deep work. Again, I will post all of this on Instagram, as far as the writing prompts and some clips from the video. And then this will be on the podcast on Wednesday. I hope you have a wonderful couple of weeks, y'all. Take care of yourselves. Remember, you have value. You matter. And finding a mantra or finding a life motto that's going to help you when things feel hard, especially when you are triggered by that feeling of either being left alone or left behind or feeling invisible. Are powerful emotions that are tied to that. So you want to spend some time leaning into that. Thank you so much for listening and watching today. I really appreciate all of you very, very much. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye. Take care.